The Politics program brought to you as always by everybody who supports us at TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Again, TakePoliticsSeriously.com. It's where you can support this show. And folks, there's more of this show than ever to support. I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but here in your Politics feed, there have been interviews. One interview a week for the last few weeks, and I'm here to tell you there's more to come. If you like them, consider going on over to our Patreon. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. If you support me at $3 a week, that means you get 3 podcasts a week. Whoa. 4 podcasts a week. You get the interview, you get the regular show that you're about to listen to, but you also get one on Monday. You get one on Friday. Little mini-sodes to make sure that you don't miss any action in the political world. That's goddamn 4 shows a week for you for only $3 a week. That's about the price of a cup of coffee. Head on over there right now. TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Never talking about how we support the show, though. What do you say we just do the damn thing? Politics. I just spilled LaCroix all over my face. Has there been a more emblematic moment of our time? The man who makes his living doing a podcast spilling a LaCroix all over his face during a Twitch stream. Hello. My name is Justin Robert Young. I am indeed a stereotype of our modern era, and I am here to bring you all the politics takes you can possibly handle. There is no bigger story right now than what is happening in Virginia. Thought I was going to say the State of the Union. Huh? Right? Huh? No, it's what's happening in Virginia. We're going to get to that. We also have more problems for Elizabeth Warren. We have a wacky ad with the governor of New Mexico. We got a pole dance. We got your emails. We got it all here. But we are going to start with the State of the Union. This State of the Union, man, what can you say? What can you say about it? It was certainly Donald Trump's most Hall of Presidents speech of all time. It was framed in proper historical context, the way these things normally are. It seemed, at least on its face, magnanimous, at least for Trump, while still hitting upon the things that he likes to hit on. I wonder sometimes about folks who want something different out of Trump. Look, Trump critics are going to be Trump critics. They are going to hate him, and I think that there's ample reason why you can, be on that side of the line. If you are against the policies that he states, then there are plenty of reasons to hate him. But sometimes I wonder when people are like, oh, I wanted him to be more bipartisan. Like, what would that look like? Because I don't think that Donald Trump could get up there and say anything aside from I'm resigning, and people who hate Donald Trump would like him. I think we're beyond the point of people that hate Donald Trump liking him. In fact, let me ask you guys a question. If you hate Donald Trump, I'm only asking people who fucking hate this guy, right? Is there literally anything short of him saying that he resigns? Is there anything that he can say with the full intention to complete his term and then seek another term in 2020? Is there anything he could have said that you would have been like, I'm going to give that man another shot? Well, by golly, I appear to have jumped the gun on the 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Because I don't think so. So it's like, I really don't get when people are like, oh, what a false flag of bipartisanship. Understanding that State of the Unions in general are chock full of platitudes and general kind of statements on vague policy goals that they either hope to achieve or at least embarrass the Congress by the fact that they didn't achieve it. Like, I thought it was fine. It was fine. Now, I do think there are a lot of lessons to take from it. There are a lot of lessons about where Donald Trump wants to go in 2020 to take from this State of the Union. We will get to all of them. But let's start with this. There were 4 USA chants. Now, I might be a little Pollyanna-ish here, but in all the times that I remember watching State of the Unions as a boy and a young man, I very rarely agree. In fact, I can't, off the top of my head, remember a single USA chant. But we got 4 last night. And 4... I mean, tell me this. This is something I think we can all come together on. We can all come together on the fact that the USA chants that we got are very emblematic of the fact that we are apart together, right? We hate each other, which makes us similar. That's one thing we have in common, is that we fucking don't like each other. Because they were all over the map. We got one USA chant for the State of the Union is strong. Okay. All right. Understood. Then we got the second USA chant. Because we have people here in the chat room saying he's President Camacho. I don't remember President Camacho in Idiocracy getting a USA chant for shouting out the fact that we have a record number of women in Congress. Which, by the way, was, I think, the only time that the women dressed in white to signal and pay tribute to the suffragette movement got up and cheered for themselves. Maybe not the best look on the planet, but moving on, it is certainly a moment to celebrate. I'm glad that they commemorated it by showing up in solidarity, all dressed in white. I thought it was a good gesture. I don't know how good of a gesture it would be if they kept doing it, but there's no guarantee that they would. So, high marks. They get an ovation. They stand up. Everybody chants USA. Okay, well, that's nice. And then we get 2. We get not 1, but 2 USA, USA, USA chants while Donald Trump is hammering socialism, saying that the United States will never be a socialist country. We will, as we were born free, we will die free. Now, we're going to get to that in a second. I want to circle back to the socialism thing. But that was one thing that stuck to me. It's like, it kind of made me proud. I'm like, wow, the USA chant. A lot of utility. A lot of utility in the USA chant. For something that is, I think we could all understand, to anybody who is listening from Europe or outside of the United States, the USA chant can come off a little, I don't know, stupid, pig-headed, ridiculous. It kind of is the siren song of the very unique brand of American exceptionalist nationalism that we seem to love. Seems to be our morphine drip. But also it is kind of a utilitarian chant. It apparently has a lot of purpose. It is the Swiss Army knife of chants. All right, number 2. I do think that this was deliberately written, and the guests that were highlighted were something that was deliberately meant to make Trump seem above the fray. It was not a coincidence that that among the first people that he pointed out after Buzz Aldrin, so big historic thing, the first modern legislation that he pointed out was criminal justice reform. Criminal justice reform is something that should have happened a long time ago in this country. This is good. This is good bipartisan legislation. You can hate Trump and you can like this. The idea that he was highlighting Alice Waters and then the first person to be affected by this legislation shows, at least in the first elemental steps from an executive power level, that we should not be jailing nonviolent drug offenders. It just a little bit, a slight rollback to the war on drugs, and just a little damage to the school to prison pipeline that has put so many African Americans in jail. So, I think this is done on purpose, that he wanted to put, we have great challenges, we have great opportunities, we went to the moon, we liberated Europe, and also look what I've done. This is possible. And I do think that it is a smart thing to highlight because he is an extremely divisive president. So if he says we can compromise even when I'm here, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. Now, Killtop09 here in our chat points out that the speech was very schizophrenic, part of it wanting solidarity and another blaming others for separation. And I would agree. I wouldn't necessarily call it schizophrenic, but maybe that's because I've just listened to enough Trump speeches that it has now blended together, and I now can kind of speak Trump a little bit. But I would agree with you in this, and this brings me to my third point. Donald Trump will never dial down the things that offend people. His version of evening things out is to dial up the love. So when he points out Alice Waters, when he talks about criminal justice reform, a bipartisan achievement, that is going to counterbalance the things that he know will upset people. And we got plenty of red meat for the base. We got a tremendous call for the wall. We got highlighting of the plight of angel families, a.k.a. people who have had their loved ones murdered by an illegal alien. We even got some late-term abortion talk, which abortion has been something that Donald Trump has kind of lightly treaded on, has not spent a lot of time talking about in general. This is because he was kind of famously pro-choice for most of his life. But he threw a little something of that for the base. Because again, he's not going to tone down the firepower. He's just going to tone up the "but I also like you." And he's going to hope that that evens out. Here's where the 2020 stuff comes in, though. Here's where the 2020 stuff. Donald Trump last night, and I do believe this is a look toward how he's going to frame himself in 2020, was markedly different on immigration than we've seen him before. Here's why. You might not have noticed it. You might not have noticed it, but you're going to notice it now. This is why you listen to the show. Donald Trump, when he announced his presidency, famously said that Mexico is sending us its rapists and killers. Some, I assume, are good people. This put the onus of illegal immigration not upon a specific element of our society, national or global, but rather on anybody who crosses the border illegally. Everyone is suspect. Which leads people to think, well, what about the dreamers? What about the dude who lives next door who's hoping to get his green card? What about the kids who were brought in when they were children? How are they going to even have a pathway to citizenship when they were brought in illegally? by their parents. They were kids. What the hell are they going to do? This has led to, I think, richly deserved criticism of Donald Trump's points. I believe that is criticism that bothers him. I believe that there are a couple things that bother him. I think it bothers him when he is talked about as a misogynist. I think it bothers him when he's talked about as a racist. And I think it bothers him when he is talked about as unflinching or uncaring when it comes to immigration. Now you might wonder, Justin, what evidence do you have to break this up? Oh, also homophobic. I think it bothers him when people think of him as that. Well, I will point to this State of the Union address because, again, this is his biggest moment to talk to the nation. Everybody has to sit down. He looks presidential, and he gets to set the agenda for what he wants to talk about. He talked about immigration in a markedly different way, in my opinion, last night. Instead of casting the wide net of some I assume are good people, he cast very targeted criticism. He did not highlight the fact that there are people here illegally. He highlighted he focused primarily on victims. He focused on we are decreasing wages for Americans and legal immigrants. Okay. So now you're not saying, hey, fuck you, a guy who came in and now is working at a job. You're saying, isn't it bad that this other guy can't get the job? Okay. Now you might think that's a little bit semantics. He focused, as he has more increasingly, specifically past the shutdown, about the idea that the fact that we don't have a border wall is a tacit approval of a global humanitarian crisis. That we are now focusing not necessarily only on the plight of Americans, but also on the plight of Guatemalans, Hondurans, Mexicans, who are being taken advantage of by criminal interests that seek to get them across the border. And because we have allowed this to continue, according to Donald Trump, we are now tacitly approving sex slavery and human trafficking. This is him highlighting the plight of the illegal immigrant. This is not something we saw a lot in 2016. I think it is going to be something that we are going to see in 2020. Even the Angel family stuff. Look, that at least also focuses on, we're not talking about the murderer. We're talking about the victims. We're talking about, don't think of who could murder somebody. Think of this crestfallen family. Now go ahead and take the misogyny element, the point that he made a point to say we have record employment for women. Take the racism thing. We have record employment for African Americans. We have record employment for Hispanic Americans. We have made tremendous strides in conquering the AIDS and HIV virus, and we would like to do better. I want to authorize more money to do such. Now, you can think that he's full of shit, and that's fine. Right? You can say that this is all bullshit, and that's cool. I'm not here to convince you that he's right. Well, I don't know if I believe he's right. All I'm saying is that this is a foreshadowing for how he is going to frame himself in 2020. In my opinion. I think we are going to get more. This is what I have done. These are things, and he's going to lean on the economy and say, as long as that's good, he is going to say of the Democratic challenger, they can talk, but there's more folks with jobs than had jobs under Obama, under Clinton. So who's there for you? I'm there for you. That's going to be his message. That's going to be how he will run in 2020. Now, here's the other thing that I know that he is going to do, that he did for 2020. He made a point throughout the rhetoric of his speech, just how he talked about stuff. Now, look, you can say that there are dog whistles. You can say that there are, things that you can understand. You can make an easy jump from A to B. But the one thing that he continued to repeat is, we can work together. We should work together. By we can reasonably assume he means Republicans and Democrats. But then he made a point to say, not socialists, not socialism. Now, you might look at that as just red meat. In fact, it did get him not one but two USA chants. But more specifically, I think it's him separating by leading with, we can work together, we can work together, we can work together, and then saying not socialist. This is, I will do anything for love, but I won't do that. Socialism is the other, even from what he's saying he wants to work with Democrats. This is very important because to me, he is laying the groundwork for 2020. There is a very high likelihood that he is going to face somebody that is tremendously progressive, if not an out-and-out Democratic socialist from Vermont. I believe that this is him saying, I will draw a hard line in the sand on socialism. I will not discuss these issues seriously. They are about stealing freedom, and I am against it. This, I think, was deliberate. Dan Wally says that's too much credit for Donald Trump. Do you think Donald Trump wrote that fucking speech? No. Jason Miller wrote that speech and a few other people. I think that they have an eye on 2020. It's their fucking job to have an eye on 2020. I think that that speech was very deliberately crafted. I think those guests were very deliberately chosen, except for maybe the kid who also has the last name Trump, who was bullied and came to see the State of the Union and fell asleep in the middle of it. That might have been a little spur of the moment. Furthermore, I do think he made one tremendous mistake. One gigantic mistake. And that was his Johnny Cochran rhyme. We need peace and legislation, not gridlock and investigation. If the glove does not fit, you must acquit. I can just imagine Johnny, the heavens part, and there's Johnny Cochran winking down on him. That was a huge fucking mistake. It was really stupid for him to do it because, by and large, the biggest criticism that I'm reading today, aside from criticism of that line specifically, is, well, he was lying about bipartisanism, which is a huge win for Trump. If you can only ding him on, I heard what he said exactly, but I don't think he's telling the truth, then he got his message across clear. But that wasn't the biggest thing that people were criticizing him about. That was the second most. The biggest thing that I've read people criticizing him about is that. Because, look, there's no winning arguing with Robert Mueller before the report comes out. You can't prove a negative. There's no way that he can say, I mean, once he said, I think that this entire thing should not have been started, you made your point. The more you hammer on it, the less that you are going to be effective with it. And the more you are going to give people rightly the opinion that you are trying to hide something. Killtop09 said that this was very Nixonian. And indeed, Richard Nixon in a State of the Union decried investigations into his own affairs before he was later run from office. The difference is, well, maybe it's an upgrade for Trump. You know, first he's Hitler. Now he's only Nixon. It's a good change. It's a good change. Oh, and we have a request to talk about Nancy's clapping. I didn't really think it was an awesome. It's a better picture. It's a better picture than it is a video. In the video, it just kind of looks like she's giving him a standing ovation. The picture, though, which is worth 1,000 words, is a lot more dismissive. I don't think that the clapping was necessarily the most dismissive thing she did. Instead, the fact that she was shuffling her papers as if she was just trying to find some kind of shortcut to see how much longer this speech was going to go. This was the most emotive State of the Union I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like the fucking Office, dude. It was crazy. Every time he'd say something, he would cut to somebody, they'd look dead in the camera and go. It was weird. It was weird. Man. And then they started chanting USA. And then they sang happy birthday to a Holocaust survivor. That's a sentence. Tell you what, there were a lot of sentences that were spoken during our interview episode. We do interview episodes on Politics Now. I hope you guys are liking this. I really do. I want to hear your feedback on our interview episodes. We've done one now with Andrea Seabrook of Countable, with Andrew Heaton of Something's Off with Andrew Heaton, one of my favorite political podcasts. By the way, I was on there today talking about the State of the Union, so go ahead and listen to that as well. And then this week, we had maybe my favorite interview so far with Jack Allison. Jack Allison is a former writer for Jimmy Kimmel, a former writer for Funny or Die, one of the most prolific Twitter users that I follow. That man is grinding on Twitter. He's a very progressive guy, very leftist guy. So if you wanted more of that perspective here represented on the show, then please go ahead and listen. But primarily, we talked about political comedy. And what I think we both agree is a really sad state for political comedies. Political comedy's in a weird place. There's not a lot of comedy in political comedy these days. And we kind of broke down why. There's a great anecdote that Jack tells on that podcast about, as a Funny or Die writer, trying to pitch things to the Obama administration because they were looking to do ACA-sponsored videos, one of which wound up becoming Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis, if you remember Barack Obama on that. But a conversation he had with Valerie Jarrett about the ACA and whether or not this is comedy's role. Like, that was his job, but he had kind of some really interesting thoughts about it. Also really interesting thoughts about why political comedy is kind of toothless right now, or on the opposite side, when it comes to Trump, very personal. I thought it was awesome. If you've thought about any of these things and want to know more about it, I highly recommend listening to it. Go ahead. It was earlier this week. Next week, we do have Dave Leventhal of the Center for Public Integrity. We're talking all about money. So go ahead and check that out. And do me a favor. If you like these, then send me emails. If you don't like these, send me emails, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. I want to know who I should interview next. I want to know what you like about him, what you don't like about him, whether or not you'd like to hear little snippets in this show. All of it. Go ahead and send me your feedback because we are building this up, and I want this, like we do everything here, to be very much based on what you guys want. I'm here for you, listeners. Come on in. Also, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm sorry, they're going to be audio only. Here's why. I just think it's a better, more relaxed interview when people aren't live and people aren't on video. It's easier to get them when I don't have to get them on video. I might wind up posting them just with art on it so people can still listen to it on YouTube. But in general, I would very much encourage you guys to go listen or subscribe to the podcast, which, by the way, is now on Spotify. Let me point that out. Spotify. We're now on Spotify. If you listen to other podcasts on Spotify, Politics is now on Spotify. Go check that out. All right. One more plug. freepoliticalnewsletter.com. You like this show? You want to know what I'm reading? You want to know what I'm talking about? You want to know what I'm thinking? 5 stories a day, 5 days a week. Real quick read, made for mobile, baby. It's there right on your phone. You scroll through 5 stories that I like, some hot takes, mostly gifts. Real quick, real easy. freepoliticalnewsletter.com. And if we haven't mentioned, it's free. Now we can get to it. Can we get to it? Can we get to it, folks? I think we can get to it. Are you guys ready for us to get to it? I think we're ready to get to it. Virginia. What the fuck? Oh my God. What is going on? What the hell is going on right now in Virginia? How bad is it in Virginia when West Virginia's laughing at you? Come on. For real. If you don't know what's happening here, this all happened. This is a reason to have our $3 level on Patreon, because you guys got a bonus episode that was almost all about this yesterday or on Monday. The new governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, who, by the way, won the office in a race that featured a super PAC ad supporting Ralph Northam against his opponent, Ed Gillespie, where Ed Gillespie was the person who was leading racism into Virginia. Yeah, he was the one who was making sure that racists were there. There was this ad where minority children were running away from a mean racist pickup truck that was looking to run them over, and then it turns out they all woke up. They were having a shared awful dream, and this is because the divisive politics, the racist politics of Ed Gillespie cannot be allowed to win. So Ralph Northam wins. Last week, Friday afternoon, it is revealed that on Ralph Northam's grad school yearbook, his med school yearbook, there is a picture of 2 men. We assume men. One in blackface and one in a KKK outfit. That's where we begin. With a political Kobayashi Maru. Who would you rather be? The man on the left or the man on the right? The man in the hood or the man in blackface? The only way to win is not to play. So Ralph Northam released not one statement written, but 2 statements, one in video, in which he says, I would like to apologize for appearing in that video. And so everybody assumes that he's going to resign. Not everybody. This is my... I gotta set up a little swear jar. Every time I say everybody, I need to put a dime in the swear jar. I believe that people saying everybody is what's ruining discourse in America. It's not everybody. Reporters in Richmond, reporters around the governor's mansion, assume that Ralph Northam is going to resign, and that is until Saturday morning. And there's a reason why we have to go hour by hour on this, friends, because it only escalates. Saturday morning, the reports start coming out. Northam is convinced he's not in the photo and is refusing to resign. So he has a statement. During that statement, he gets up and says, well, friends, I know for a fact that I have never worn a KKK outfit. And I also know for a fact that I am not the man in blackface. Because I would have remembered. And here's how I know I would have remembered. Back in the same year that this photo was published, I won a dance contest while in blackface. While in blackface. Yes, friends. He was admitting to being in blackface while saying that he was not the man pictured in blackface. He goes on to say that he was that he won a dance competition with blackface on, dressed as Michael Jackson. He's got a light-skinned gov dressed like Michael Jackson. Got a dark-skinned gov dressed like Michael Jackson. He admits that he won, and he won because he learned how to moonwalk. When one of the reporters, and Italian chef's kiss to the reporter that asked the important question. Here is Mr. Ralph Northam, Governor Ralph Northam, and possibly soon to be Mr. Ralph Northam, explaining that he indeed won this competition via moonwalking, and then being asked the one question that we all needed to have answered.
You know, we always are asked when we're running, you know, what kind of things should our people look into. Obviously, there's opposition research on the other side, but I will tell you, no, I didn't ever really think about that there would be anything offensive in my EVMS yearbook. But this literally hit me like a ton of bricks last night. It totally caught me off guard. So it was something that I wasn't expecting. And to your point, the people that do that kind of research, perhaps they should have looked at that.
And you said that the competition in San Antonio was a dance competition?
Yes.
And it was that you danced the moonwalk?
That's right.
Are you still able to moonwalk?
Let's go into the mind of Governor Ralph Northam. He has been asked by a reporter if he is still able to moonwalk. This is during a press conference in which his entire political career is resting. At the point that I have paused this video for you, dear audio listener, he is looking down at his podium with a slight smirk on his face. And I would like to recklessly conjecture that he is indeed thinking, well, if I were to moonwalk right now, I'll bet you that would be the only thing that people would report. Huh. I wonder if anybody would even ask about the yearbook photo if only I was able to moonwalk. Here is his answer.
Inappropriate circumstances.
My wife says inappropriate circumstances.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Ralph Northam's wife just telling him inappropriate circumstances. Just inappropriate. Don't you dare fucking moonwalk right now, Ralph. Now you might think that longtime listeners to this show will understand that maybe it is time. Maybe it is time. Wait a minute. We have more? Wait a minute. More? We have more? More that we have to... okay, so the next day after all this, news breaks that the lieutenant governor, a.k.a. the person that would become the governor if Northam stepped down, has a bit of a scandal of his own. That yearbook photo was reported on a right-wing blog called Big League Politics. Big League Politics apparently justifies the fact that this is not just a cup of coffee for them by knocking another 1 yard when they publish a social media post by somebody in the Stanford University community who says, imagine how you would feel If in 2004 you were sexually assaulted by somebody, you then found out years later that they had won tremendous statewide office across the country, and now you watch in horror as they may be getting a big promotion. Big League Politics connected the dots and said this is about Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor of Virginia, a.k.a. the man who would have been governor if Ralph Northam had stepped down at that Saturday press conference. So you're Justin Fairfax. What do you do? I mean, if I were advising him, I would say, look, let's go ahead, take this slow, all right? You already got all the heat on Northam. You want to make sure that that stays there. If anybody asks you about it, you just say, look, this is the same website that published everything about Ralph Northam. They're obviously trolling the depths of the political landscape for any muck they can find. I have never sexually assaulted anyone, and I'm going to leave it at that. You know, if he did that, like, you know, the Big League Politics would have kept going, but they're a right-wing blog. Nobody really would have paid attention to him on the Northam stuff if they didn't have the proof and people couldn't corroborate it, which they did. This is a allegation. People are published. Allegations about sitting politicians are published every day on blogs that no one reads. But that's not what what Lieutenant Governor, soon to be Mr. Fairfax, did. No. No. He released a statement saying that I am that the allegations levied against me. I did not have. I did not sexually assault a woman in 2004. Beyond that, the Washington Post has already looked into these allegations and found there to be inconsistencies in the allegations from the lady, and so therefore they are not relevant. They have been discredited by the Washington Post, who refused to run a story. No! Justin! No! You have done two things that you simply couldn't do. Number one, you officially, by your own words, said, I'm definitely the guy in that social media post. Yep, it's me. I'm not going to let other people put the pieces together. I'll just go ahead and save you the time. She's talking about me. And beyond that, she's fucking lying. And here's how I'm going to prove that she's fucking lying. The Washington Post looked into it. Let me tell you a little something about the Washington Post. Let me tell you a little something about newspapers. There are a lot of things that annoy newspapers. And there are a lot of things that annoy newspaper reporters. Few of them are more irritating than public figures trying to use reporters as shields to deflect public controversy. So when you say that the Washington Post looked into this and refused to publish a story because they found inconsistencies, what you might as well be saying is, oh, hi, Washington Post, can you please empty your reporters' notebooks about everything you reported on that allegation? Because it might not be enough for you to report it in the cold, therefore bringing up a scandal. But if I'm already setting the table for you, then please, yes, repeat verbatim everything that this woman told you and how much you looked into it. And indeed, that's what the Washington Post did. So since you indeed walked to the mirror and looked into it and said Bloody Mary 10 times and happened to have Bloody Mary show up, what do you do next, Justin Fairfax? Oh, threaten to sue the Washington Post. This son of a bitch. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. All right. All right. So here we go. Maybe we have two. I need to get this down here. Hold on. Well, no. No. No, my God. No. 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 There can't. No. I refuse to believe. I refuse to believe there's still more. We have never seen a rush on the poop buffet like this before. No. The third person in line for the governorship. This breaks today. The third person in line is the Virginia Attorney General. So that means that if Northam resigns and Fairfax resigns, the man who takes over is the Attorney General, who admits today that he wore blackface at a 1980s college party. This from Axios. Virginia's Democratic Attorney General Mark Herring said in a statement Wednesday that he wore blackface at a college party amid a deepening scandal in Richmond after the discovery last week of a racist photo on Governor Ralph Northam's medical school yearbook and his subsequent admission that he wore more blackface in 1984. Now, here's why this one's important. If Northam resigns and Fairfax resigns and Herring resigns, the next in line to be governor is a Republican. So after we begin with Northam defeating Ed Gillespie in a campaign, a Democrat getting the governorship of Virginia, we are now at a point where it would be plausible that all three would resign and a Republican would be the governor of Virginia anyway. Oh, wait a minute. That's not the only thing that happened today. Just in case you wondered where this kind of stuff is coming from, and there have been many conspiracy theories on who is leaking all this. Fairfax thinks that it's Northam. Northam assumes that it's the Republicans, which you would have reason to think if all three are going to resign now. Although I don't know why the Republicans would sit on something like this when there was, an election. I would say almost certainly that there are people inside the governor's mansion that want everybody in the governor's mansion to eat a pile of poop, because this from Jonathan Allen today. Justin Fairfax said, "Fuck that bitch," as he tried to discredit his accuser during a private meeting Monday night, sources tell NBC News' Jeffrey R. Bennett and me. Do you know how deep your leaks have to be if somebody is reporting, "Fuck that bitch"? Like, you got some leaks, dude. My dude, you got some leaks. So, all right. This is rare, folks. This is very, very rare that we have. Normally I'm bringing out extra chairs. I'm bringing everything we need. Hey, do me a favor. Can we get, you're going to have to call in. I know it's their off day, but we're going to have to call in the extra waiters because, ladies and gentlemen, the poop buffet. The poop buffet. Who's first in line today? All three in the poop buffet. Virginia is for eaters. Eaters of poop. I don't know how we're going to top that. That was the greatest poop buffet of all time. Oh, here's somebody who keeps having to eat poop. I don't think she doesn't make her way into this table, but this is certainly something of her own making. Elizabeth Warren. Oh, man. Remember when Elizabeth Warren thought it was a really good idea to start her presidential campaign by hammering Donald Trump for the Pocahontas stuff? That's looking less and less like a good idea. This is because a report that came out yesterday, Washington Post, Elizabeth Warren listed her race as American Indian on her Texas bar registration. This is after she made a big old point of saying that she never used her designation as American Indian, which she had listed during her time as an academic to her benefit. And yet, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren listed her race as American Indian on a state bar of Texas registration card in 1986, the Washington Post reported Tuesday. The Post reporting represents a previously unknown instance of Warren claiming her race as Native American and the first document that appears to definitively show Warren making the claim in her own handwriting. According to the Post, Warren has previously declined to answer whether she or an assistant filled out forms in which her race was listed as Native American. Warren's longstanding assertion of having Native American heritage have dogged her political career and provided fodder for attacks from President Donald Trump. Her use of DNA testing to confirm her limited Native roots. Limited Native roots. That's damaging for her. She does not like that. Last year was met with fierce criticism from Native American groups. The prospective 2020 Democratic presidential candidate is expected to formally announce her entrance into the race on Saturday, forming an exploratory committee on New Year's Eve. This is a big moment for her. She does not like these headlines. Also makes you wonder, how did the Washington Post get that? You know, you think that they were just randomly searching the, Texas archives, or did they get an email? Say, hey, you might want to check these Texas archives. I don't know. I've been on the record as saying that the way she should have played that is, if you're going to fight on that, if you're going to fight on the fact that you are Native American, you got to go all the way. You got to have you got to have a press conference with all the tribal leaders. You got to show up to the Senate in a headdress. Like, you got to do the whole 9 yards. If you're not going to do that, then you got to walk it back. You got to say, hey, look, like everybody, family's complicated. I lived my entire life, most of my professional existence, believing one thing. It wasn't until I became a politician that I really seriously looked into it. Up till then, like many people, I believed what my family told me. It was a complicated situation, and it was not something that I really relished digging into until it became a personal attack, and I understood what the ramifications of me claiming something like that would be to others if I indeed was wrong. So I looked into it, found out that I'm nominally Native American, but if I could go back, I wouldn't have listed it. Now, she already went out, said, I want to fight on this. Boom, shakalaka, Donald Trump, you're racist. You owe me money because you wanted to bet me. I took the DNA test and I win. Now you got to defend all these. All these you got to defend. All right, let's loosen it up a little bit. This is a ad that came out after the State of the Union last night. There is indeed a governor's race in New Mexico. This is an ad for New Mexican Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. She shared this on Twitter last night. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Lujan Grisham, New Mexico's 49th in employment and 50th for schools. We got to bust through some walls to make changes.
If you are only listening, please understand that this woman just ran through a wall. So every time you hear that noise, which will be frequently, she will be running through more walls.
I'll create public and private partnerships to rebuild our infrastructure.
Let me just say this. She gets ahead of fucking steam, and she's wearing heels and a pantsuit. Like, she is moving. That lady is active.
We need more apprenticeships and skills training. And we have billions in the permanent fund to invest in schools and small businesses.
By the way, she is now covered in drywall. She has run through 2 walls. The first 2 walls are construction sites. The third wall is a classroom where the kids are now agape. And here's your big finale.
And here's what I think of Trump's wall.
She literally runs through a wall in a children's classroom. Here's what she thinks of Trump's wall. And by the way, the wall she runs through has a picture of Donald Trump on it. Folks, I would like to formally endorse Michelle Lujan Grisham if she takes my suggestion to make her new slogan, Michelle Lujan Grisham, I'm the juggernaut, bitch. Okay. It's time. It's time to do the most popular segment on the Politics podcast. Oh, come on and give me that music. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a perspective poll for the 2020 presidential race. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a poll! Dance, 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 dance. Oh, this is a Rasmussen poll taken from January 30th to January 31st with 1,000 likely voters, a margin of error of 3%. Stepping up first to the stage, he's got plenty of junk in the trunk. Your 45th president of the United States. 40% for the Republican, Donald Trump. But your headliner, he is the former mayor of New York City. He once had an office in a Sprinter van. He is not declared for the 2020 race, nor do I believe he's an official Democrat. He's an actual billionaire with 46% of the vote. Michael Bloomberg. That is Trump 40%, Bloomberg 46%. Bloomberg with a 6-point spread. a reminder that Rasmussen is Trump's best poll. They have polled Trump the best. I have no idea where this shit comes from, because Bloomberg does not poll particularly well when it comes to the Democratic race, but apparently people like him as a general, a general election candidate, according to Rasmussen. Because that's what you want, is another New York billionaire. All right. Let's go ahead and get into but your emails. Open Bias says, did Bloomberg announce he's not running? I saw that Steyer announced he's not running. I didn't see Bloomberg one way or another, but if you can find it, I will correct it by the end of the podcast if somebody can find a story that says it. Let's go ahead and get into the emails first, though. Sistro writes, and by the way, thank you to everybody who wrote me running commentary. A lot of you guys just wrote out running commentary to the State of the Union and just sent it to me. Awesome work. Keep up with that shit. I love it. I had to pick and choose because a lot of you guys said the same stuff. But here we go. Sistro writes, the funniest part was when left-wing talking heads on MSNBC CNN, is there a difference, bemoan Trump for not being bipartisan. They are used to bipartisan being defined as Republicans surrendering. Those days are over. Bipartisanship means meeting in the middle and both sides making concessions, something that Obama never did. Obamacare was passed on a straight party line vote with no compromises. And begin endless, but you started it first from everybody on where the end of bipartisanship started. Spoiler alert, it was when the team that isn't your team did something bad. Mark writes, coming from a blue teamer, Trump did well. This State of the Union had it all. Trump calling for compromise and Nance repeatedly clapping close to his head. Having the family of an MS-13 victim present during his immigration appeal. You have to clap for that one, Corey. A childhood cancer survivor who raised a bunch of money for childhood cancer research. You have to clap for that one, Kamala. The spontaneous or expertly calculated white-suited women's celebration when Trump praised women's work achievements, followed by USA, USA chant. This was my favorite moment because of the outward appearance of unity but undercurrent of visceral tribalism. Announcing we would escalate arms if we can't reach a new missile agreement with Russia. Trump's claiming that socialism will never have a place in America and Bernie holding back tears. And singing happy birthday to Judah and Trump's quip, they wouldn't do that for me, Judah. That was pretty funny. We are seeing things that Bloomberg has not made a decision on whether or not to run yet, but he would run as a Democrat. So there we go. Sean writes, Melania looked a lot more orange than Trump today. Democratic women in white was simple but effective. Ted Cruz grew some really strange-looking facial hair, and Don Jr. on the other hand, also has a poor quality beard. The right can't beard. Rishi writes, quote, if there is peace in legislation, there can't be war and investigation, end quote. The line, so hot, Trump said it twice at the State of the Union. So if we go back with the theory that Trump is a comedian first and a politician third, because he's a real estate mogul second, then I have to think that the whole reason Trump was pushing for the State of the Union was so he could drop this hot zinger, not once, but twice at the State of the Union, while Pelosi has to just sit there with her grandma scowl. But yeah, sure, bipartisanship, quote unquote. All right. Here were emails that were not about the State of the Union. Scale wrote, did I miss an episode somewhere? Or are you really going to sidestep the whole, yeah, you can have an abortion at any stage through pregnancy up to and including a woman going into labor legislation? I know it's always the Holy Grail unfriend me episode, but damn, dude, if there's ever a time to get that shit going again, it's probably now. I don't know enough about the late-term abortion stuff to have a take on it. And if I don't know exactly where I want to ballerina around the minefield, I'm going to politely decline on stepping into the range. So, if you don't like it, please feel free to call me a pussy of infinity and send it to theyoungamerican@gmail.com. I'll be the pussy that still has a Patreon. And finally, we had a couple emails about Cheerios. Andrew wrote, angry email voice, please. Justin, I held my tongue when you besmirched the great tradition of snow barbecuing. But this week, when you started throwing shade at regular Cheerios, you went too far. Cheerios are great, and adding honey just masks their inherent greatness. And nuts! Nuts are right out! Seriously, though, love the show. You're killing it this year. Thank you, Andrew. Losham writes, 18-ounce box of Cheerios. Off the top of my head, I'd say $4.59. To which I say, even after covering that one for a week, I still don't fucking know how much Cheerios cost. Ken writes, just to be clear, Ralph Northam's response to the unfortunate yearbook photo implies he's an idiot and quite possibly racist as fuck. However, on a jury episode, you once read my confession that I dressed as a Nazi Arthur Fonzarelli, complete with forehead swastika for a Halloween in the 80s. If there were publicly available photographic evidence of this unfortunate costume, and there may be, I'd have to check my Facebook, should it affect any political aspirations that I may have in the future? The fact that Northam's high school was willing to publish such a photo shows he didn't exactly grow up in a very woke setting. Assuming it is him in the photo, if he responded with, you know what, that was a mistake. Since then, life experience has taught me that KKK and blackface aren't funny. Dare I say, I'd respect him for it. That said, I don't see why folks are demanding his resignation, other than if he were to say, yeah, that's me, and I plan on reenacting that photo on its anniversary. For the record, life experience has taught me that Nazi Fonz isn't cool. What do you say, Justin? How racist am I? Should I throw my hat in the ring for the next Canadian election? Let me draw the political sin on the Northam thing is the fact that it's as close to the election as it is, that at the end of the day, you are always going to have to react to the idea that, well, the election probably would have went different if we would have known this beforehand. Besides, it was in grad school. That means he's in his mid-20s. It's not exactly high school, so people look at it a little bit differently. And also, I would in general say that in today's day and age, if you got some shit like that in your past, it's time to talk about it now before we go any further. You have to be the one who releases it and not having somebody spring it on you. Because again, it's always the cover-up and not the crime. I fucked up my out. God damn it. Politics. You want to email us? Come on. Email us. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere, and you can download archived episodes of this here show at bonerwars.com. Folks, that about wraps it up. I want to thank everybody who supports this show. Thank you, everybody in the $3 club that is getting 4 podcasts a week now that we're doing the interviews. I'm working hard for you, baby. Trying to do it. All right, friends. Folks, a reminder. Some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics. Still more, they talk about politics. But this show, right here, is the only one that talks about all the race. See you next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.